this is Michelle with Country Craft Creations, and I have an extra design team project for you today. And this is the Cupid's Heart explosion box that I shared with you a little while ago. And then weather happened and winter happened and I lost power and all that other fun stuff. So I'm coming back today to share with you the tutorial on how I made it. So this box features the Glamour, the new Glamour glitter cardstock that is available at Country Craft Creations. It is a non-shed cardstock and it's really beautiful, and it comes in quite a wide variety of colors. So I already did kind of a walkthrough, but I just wanted to share with you just a quickie what we're going to talk about today and what we're going to make. We're going to make the base of this today, and then I think what I'll do is I'll come back and I'll show you how I decorated it, but we're going to talk about all the elements. It's really super simple. So you can do this with anything you want. I'm using an 8x8 paper pack and it worked perfect, but you can use, of course, any paper pack you want. The actual size of the box is 6x4 and it is 4 inches tall, and it has 3 layers to it. Now this does not require an explosion board. We're going to use the regular scoreboard, so you don't have to worry about it, but I will show you how cool the explosion board is for making the corners, just because it is kind of nice, to have that, but you don't need it to make this project. Okay, so I'll link the walkthrough, the full walkthrough down below, but we'll just go through this real quick. So you have your outer lid here. It is a rectangle size box, and then when you pop it like this and open it up, inside the lid I put 2 little photo mats. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but I just like to because I didn't want to lose that space. So you have 2 cute little places you could put photos on that, and then it opens up here. You have diagonal pockets here, and I just put the little cut aparts from the collection in one of the pockets, and then in the bigger pocket I just put a simple photo mat, and I will show you that in a second. So just using the pattern paper here. The diagonal pockets here are glued on. Oops, sorry about that. And as you can see, we have one of the cut aparts here just over that angle, but there's 2 pockets there. And then up and down we have other pockets, and they're just straight pockets. And then I just did a booklet and another booklet here, and just used the pattern paper. So what you put in the pockets will depend on your pattern paper, but I'll show you how I did it with this. When this opens up, again, another photo mat, and then I used some of the Glamour throughout to kind of decorate things. On the lid here, I used a 1/8 inch punch and just did some dots, kind of like enamel dots, and then put a little accent on there. And then here we have another set of diagonal pockets. This is just a straight diagonal pocket, not crisscross. And then this one here, up and down, has a tag that comes out, which will open up a flap, diagonal pocket on the inside with the photo mat. Okay, and the tag will keep it closed. On this one here, I used the Glamour cardstock to make a hole reinforcement, so that gave it another accent of color here. Then this lifts up, another photo mat, more accents here, and then on the top I did again some more of those 1/8 inch punches just to kind of decorate the bows on that pattern paper and give it a little more color. And then on the inside here we have 2 trifolds, and they will be held together with seam binding, so they open up, and you could put photos in there. And then you have a straight pocket here, and then I just used leftovers to create little photo mats and things. And then on the inside, because this is a Cupid's album, on the inside here I did this, added a tag, and then I made these little envelopes, used my stamp punch from my stash to kind of punch out little strategic pieces of scrap paper, and then put just a little folded letter inside so you could have little love notes. And then on the back of each envelope I did like a seal with the cut aparts from this collection, and then I just wrapped seam binding around it to just have like a bundle of love letters. So that's what I did here. But the other thing that's really cool about this one, let me see if I can get this back in the stack here, is that this all comes apart. So I used magnets to put the boxes together so they're not glued on, they come right off. So you have that layer here, then you have this layer here, and then you have that layer there. So it's easy to work on it. It's easy to put pictures in it, but then you can stack it together really nice for a really cool presentation. And the magnets will keep this definitely where you can use it. Okay, so that's what we're going to make today. And if you follow me on Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creations, you know that I was having some troubles trying to decide which paper collection to use for this. So I left it up to a vote, and yeah, the vote came back tied. So I still don't know which collection I'm going to use. So we're going to get through the construction of this, and then we're going to talk later. I'm going to decorate, and I'll surprise you with what I decided to do, because I ended up, we're going to do a coin toss. At least that's what I said I was going to do. So yeah, Hubin is here, and since it was a tie, I'm just like, ah! So anyway, the papers that I was choosing from, let me show you real quick. I'm having a real hard time. I have these two 8x8 packs from Country Craft Creations, Chaps and Colors of Autumn. And it was split. It was split evenly down the middle. I did a post in the design team page, and I did a post in the Scrapbookers of Country Craft Creation page, and it was down the middle. So yeah, I will let you know. So let's talk about the base pages. So they're made out of the 12x14 Artisan cardstock. Pearl Sheen Natural is what I used. You will need about 6 pieces of this to make the entire box set. Now, you definitely have to have 2 sheets of this. Well, actually you don't. Let me backtrack. I'm going to show you how to make it with this paper. But if you don't have the 12x14 to make the outside boxes, uses 1 whole sheet of this. If you don't have the 12x14, I'm going to show you how to use 12x12 papers to construct this box. You will need to cut more pieces and stuff like that. But that's what I'm going to use for today. I bought this, and I really wanted to use it. So it works great for the first and the second boxes, but you don't necessarily have to have it, but it sure makes it nice, because then you don't have to piece papers together, that was the goal for me. So I just wanted to show you, this is the last piece that I have left over. And let's get started with the outer box. Now the outer box is really simple. You're going to need 1 piece that is 12x14, and we're going to just use our regular scoreboard here, and we're going to score on the 14 at 4 and at 10. Okay, so just put it in with the 14 at the top. It will hang off your scoreboard. Don't worry about it, it'll be fine. Score down at 4 and score down at 10. Okay, and then what you're going to do is you're going to turn it onto the 12. Now this is where you need to be kind of careful, because the paper does extend beyond the bottom. You're going to score, but you're not going to score all the way down, okay? You're going to stop somewhere before you reach the end of your scoreboard so you don't mess up your paper. So again, 12 at the top now. You're going to score at 4, and don't go all the way down. Go down to around 11.5, 12 inches. Don't go off your scoreboard, and then go to 8 and do the same. And then what you're going to do is just rotate your paper around, and you're going to finish those scores, okay? So go back in at 4 and at 8, and then that will finish all of your scores and be able to do the whole page, okay? So once you get this scored, then what you're going to do is cut your corners off, and then we're going to score the corners. So let me show you. We're going to grab your paper trimmer of choice, and the 4 corners we're going to cut off. We're not going to score these yet, because I want to use these as pockets. So I don't want to have a score line through my pockets. So that's why we're going to cut them off first. So I'm just lining up the points of the scores on the outer 4-inch pieces, and I'm cutting those off, and then I'm going to just set those off to the side. So I'm going to do that all the way around. Okay, all the way around, lining up those corners of those scores. Save them. Okay, so now we have all 4 of our corners cut off. We're going to save those pieces, and back to scoring. So now we have to score the corners. We're going to do this from the opposite side because I want the scores to go the opposite direction. So I like to turn my papers around. Even though you don't necessarily have to with Artisan cardstock, it's a good habit to get into, just so that, you know, your scores go in the direction that you want them to fold. So like valley fold or valley scores, like we did this, that's a valley score, will become mountains. So we're going to fold it this way. When we do it this way, then it'll be opposite, and because we're going to have those corners go towards the inside of the box. Okay. So when you have your corners, if you measure them, they are about 5 5/8, which is an odd measurement to try to, you know, find the middle of. It's kind of hard. It's like right before, like in between the 3/4 and the 7/8 inch mark. So 2 and right in between the 3/4 and the 7/8 inch mark. Okay. So that is, you know, kind of odd to try to figure out on your scoreboard. I'm going to try to line it up. I'll show you that you kind of have to maneuver it a little bit. Now, one thing that you can do is grab like one of your Country Craft Creations spacers. If you put this up at the top and kind of line it up, what I'm trying to do is that point right here, I'm trying to line it up to my 6-inch mark. Now you notice on my scoreboard I have a red line all the way up to my 6-inch mark. And then that way I can do things like this and line up that diagonal so that I can score it properly. Okay, so if I did like that, which is kind of backwards here, but I can score down that 6-inch line and go down to my point. Okay, so I hope you can see that, but that's how you can line that up with your scoreboard. Okay, so whatever works for you, you can measure, make a tick mark and do it. You can use some sort of a straight edge. I like this idea. Before I had this, I used a ruler sometimes to do it that way. This makes it nice because the top edge is flush with the edge of my scoreboard, and then I have this straight line this way. So it works out really good. You don't have to really measure. You just have to line up the point of your score to like that 6-inch mark where I have kind of that mark. Now, if you have your explosion board, which I love, and I love it especially because it has this beautiful diagonal piece right here where you can do your corners. So if you have that, then all you have to do is line up your paper, make sure it's at the top edge here, because there's nice lips where you can just or edges where you can line up your papers, and then just score down that mark. Okay, and then go down to the corner. Okay, so if you have your explosion board, this is the easiest way to do it. Okay, but if you don't have the scoreboard, then you can go ahead and use like a spacer, put it right to the edge of that 6-inch mark, and then line up those scores, that point right there. Make sure your paper is nice and straight. Okay, and then score down like that. Okay, so now that we have our corners scored, I'm going to put this out of my way because we basically aren't going to use that explosion board at all. Then you're going to fold and burnish. Okay, so we're going to fold the straight lines first and make sure everything is nice and folded. So I'm just going to go around all 4 sides like so. Okay, so then once you have that, then we got to fold the corners. Now the easiest way that I found to fold the corners is to, the corners are going to fold to the inside. Okay, so they're going to go like that. The easiest way I found to do it is to like fold flat and then fold back like so. Okay, now when you do that, before you press it and really burnish it, make sure that your outside edges are aligned. And then go in with your bone folder and then press that down, and that will give you a nice lined up edge for your corners. Okay, so again, we're going to fold flat. Okay, it's easier for me to do it this way, and it's a little bit long. I'm not used to using 14-inch paper, so my desk isn't big enough. I'm gonna have to clean up my desk if I'm gonna use these papers. And then just fold back like so. All right, then we'll do it again. So you can do it just like that. Make sure your sides are lined up, and then go in with your bone folder and just press down on that corner. All right, last one. Fold flat and then fold back like so. Okay, so now we have our box. So this is the outer box. That's how it's supposed to look. Perfect. I love it. Yes, we got this going on. So these little corners are going to make their pockets. Now let's look at this is the other thing I like about this magnet idea, because now I can take it apart and I can really show you what we're going to do. So these pockets right here are basically just crisscross. So we're going to take the two corners from here, glue them here, and we're going to take the two corners from here and glue those here. That's all we're going to do. And then we're going to, I'll show you how to cut the pattern paper to do this. Now, the pattern paper, well, we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's make the box first. Let's do this. So grab your trimmer again, because I found to make sure that we fit within the squares here, you're going to need to trim off a little bit off these triangles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put it in. Now that should line up with at 4 inches. Okay, that should be 4 inches across. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to nudge it just over a little bit between the 7/8, 3 7/8, and 4, and cut off a 1/16 of an inch or so, just a little sliver, to make sure that pocket fits nice in, or that, yeah, the pocket fits nice inside those scores, because I don't want, when we fold our box, to hurt our pocket. Okay, so I'm just going to do that to all 4 of these, just right in between that 7/8 and the 4. And you just have to do it on the one side. You do not have to do it on both sides, just one side of this triangle. Okay, that will essentially just trim this up perfectly for our pocket. Okay, get this out of the way and that out of the way, and then we're just simply going to glue these down. Okay, so I'm going to do it this way so you can kind of see it right side up. So it doesn't matter whichever way you want to layer these, right over left, left over right, doesn't really matter. And then I'm just going to take my art glitter glue that, again, I get from Country Craft Creations. And I also have to tell you, so that explosion board, I've done a lot. If you haven't watched my channel, I've done a lot of explosion board projects. I love explosion boxes and explosion albums, and I've made a ton of them. So the board is available at Country Craft Creations, and I use it a lot. And not only do I use the board, but I also use the little heart templates as well, and I've done those with other projects. So I'll put a link down below so you can see, or you can go check it out, because I just love that tool. It's one of my favorites, and if it ever like breaks and I can't get another one, I'm gonna cry, because I just love it so much. And then I've got a lot of tutorials on my channel to show you how to use them. So, and the cool thing is that where I live, one of our local craft warehouses, one of my friends visits there, and she told them about it, so then they kind of featured my channel in their store, which is kind of cool, you know, for the explosion boxes. I thought that was pretty neat. So okay, so now what we have 2 pockets glued down, so that's triangle pockets. So you have one big, whoops, gotta wait till the glue dries though, you know. That is one thing about the Pearl Sheen paper, which I should have warned you about, is that make sure before you do a whole lot with putting stuff in the pockets that it's burnished down well and it's dry. Okay, it does take an extra second, and I don't know if it's because of the glossy nature of the paper, but it does take an extra second. So just kind of give it a minute. But you will have a pocket here, and then you'll have a pocket here, okay? So that one, we'll do the other one real quick, and then we will talk about how to cut the triangles for the pattern paper. So when we cut that extra little piece off, that little 1/16 of an inch, it made the triangles fit right inside those score lines. So it's going to be absolutely perfect. Okay. Be careful when you're burnishing this down because it will slide just a little bit, but we'll make sure this time that I don't put anything in the pocket till it's dry. Okay, we'll just give it an extra second. Okay, and then I'm just putting just a little line of glue just on the edge, on the straight edge of this triangle. Right over top of that other pocket, right inside those lines. Trying to hold that down. All right, now that we have our triangles on as pockets, we got to talk about pattern paper, okay? So let me get this out of the way. You are going to need 2 pieces of pattern paper, and again, yes, I still need to do the coin toss, so we're going to use this colored cardstock as an example. You will need 2 pieces that are 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. And then what you're going to do is you're going to cut these, you're going to take and cut into triangles, okay? So you're going to take your 3 3/4 inch piece, you'll need 2 total. You're going to cut it at the diagonal so you have 1 big triangle, and then you're going to take the other triangle and cut it into 2 triangles, okay? So you're going to cut the square at a diagonal, and then you're going to take this triangle and you're going to cut it right in half, like so. When you do that, you are going to end up with enough pieces to cover the outer triangle of your pocket. You're going to have a piece that will cover the inner triangle of your pocket, and you're going to have a piece that covers that. Now I'm doing it this way because it will show you the triangles and show you the pockets, but it also will save paper so you're not covering up paper, you know, with pattern paper underneath the pockets that you're gonna, you know, kind of lose. Now, the other thing that you're also going to need to do is you're going to need 2 other pieces of squares. You're gonna need 2 more to cut these triangles. These are gonna be the same size. So if you take 1 square here, you're gonna end up with enough for here and here. So that will cover the same size, will cover that inner triangle and this inner triangle for your box, okay? Does that make sense? I hope it does. So basically what you will need from your pattern paper, let me grab the box and I'll show you. You will need, I used blue for the outer triangle, so this was 2 squares total at 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and I just cut all of those into 4 triangles, and then 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here. Just watch the orientation of your paper. I used non-directional on purpose so that I didn't have to worry about that. For here, you will need 1 full square for this pocket and 1 full square for this pocket, and I chose the red with the roses, okay? So then this will be covered up later, but we got to put the magnets on, so don't do that now. I just wanted to tell you how to cut the triangles for this. Now on the back of this also, you can go ahead and cover the bottom of the outside, and then I covered the sides with pattern paper, but I didn't cover the outer triangles because when you fold that box up, they're going to get hidden. No one's ever going to see them, so I didn't feel like I wanted to use my pattern paper on that, but I did cover the insides, okay? I have done an extensive kind of how-to video on this as well, and I will go ahead and, I got a fuzzy there, it's bugging me. I will put a link down below too, so you can see that as well. All right, so then let's put this off to the side. We're going to make pockets, and this is for the outer box. You need 2 of these. that are 3 by 5 minus a 1/16. So what that means is that you're going to have 2 pieces of cardstock, cut them at 3 by 5, but you're going to just back off just a 1/16 of an inch from the full 5-inch, okay? So as you can see, it's right in between, kind of like our triangles, the 4 7/8 by 5, okay? Can you see that? So just take off like a 1/16 of an inch from that pocket, and then again, that enables everything to kind of fit within the scores. So then once you do that, you will put it in your scoreboard, and we're going to score on the 3 sides, and you're going to have to turn it because it is not quite 5 inches. If you just score it 4.5, you're going to not have the right size pocket. So you're going to score it half, turn it, score it half, turn it, score it half. You have to do that whenever you take off that 1/16 of an inch to fit within the scores. You have to do that. Otherwise, you will not have an appropriate fold for your pocket, and it won't fit within the scores. So then I'm just going to miter, and I'm going to miter sharply across the bottom corners so that I can take off bulk. And we're going to do that. All right, do that to both of them. Get that out of the way. Fold and burnish. Fold and burnish. Okay, box back. The box pockets will go either side. Doesn't really matter if you put it on the left or the right. I put mine on, as it's facing me, I put them on the left. So I'm just going to, again, grab my glue, and I'm only going to do the bottom part of the pocket. I'm going to fit that here, right in between the score and then right to the edge. So that will center that nicely, and it won't impede in the folding of my box. I'm going to open that up carefully because remember, like I said, it does take an extra second to glue everything with this paper. Okay. And then what you're going to need is, where did I put my tape? I know I had it. All right, so you will need some tape, and I'm just going to run a little piece of this transparent tape, cellophane tape, scotch tape, whatever you want to call it, over the top, because we're going to be able to save paper that way by only having to cover this part instead of putting it all the way into the pocket, okay? And then also what that will do is with explosion boxes, especially this one here, because there's only a 1/4 inch all the way around, it will save a little of the bulk so the box closes better, okay? Okay. Let's do the other one, and I'm going to do it opposite. So again, just the bottom. And then when you put the tape over that, then what happens is when you put your tags in, they don't get caught up. So that's nice. Okay. Okay. A little bit of tape. Then put your pocket on. So we have our pockets here, our diagonal pockets. We have our pockets here. We're going to let this sit and dry for a little bit. And then we're going to work on, real quick, when I did the my prototype, I had those booklets in the big pockets. So I used scraps that I had left over and super sticky Post-it notes too, which is great. And I made 2 booklets, and I did 2 that were 3.5 by 11. And then you just score these on the 11 at 5.5. And then that gives you your booklet. And then you can corner round them if you want. You can use decorative punches. I use decorative punches on mine just to do the edge, and then it just made a nice little photo mat for that. So that's what I did, and you will just need 2 of those. Those will go in the big pockets. Then the little tags that I did in the diagonal pockets here, these are a little bit big. I did them at 3.5, so I think I'm going to advise you to do them at 3.25 by 3.25, just because they were just a little bit tight with the glued edges. So I had to fuss with it a little bit. So cut them at like 3.25 by 3.25 for the Artisan cardstock, okay? And then the pattern paper would be 3.125 by 3.125. So that's kind of my little hint and tip from what I did to make sure that they fit nice and tight. Or not nice and tight. You want to be able to get them in and out of the pocket. So we glued the edges, so you need a little bit of extra wiggle room. So these are the box booklets for the outer part. All right, so the middle box is a 12 by 14 piece of cardstock that we're going to cut to 12.5 by 10.5. You're going to score on all 4 sides at 3.5, okay? So what I'm going to do is put it in my scoreboard and just score all the way down. Now, the 10.5-inch side, no problem. When you get to the 12.5-inch side, score at 3.5, but don't go all the way down, because you are going to run into it's going to hang off your board just a little bit. At least it does with mine. So just go around, do the 4, and then you might have to go back in and kind of go back in here and, you know, redo the scores so that you get it all the way done. So just like we did for the outer box, you might have to do that for this one too. My board doesn't go quite to 12.5 inches. So if you have a different scoreboard, you might get to do that. Okay, so then this one here, we're going to do some cutting. So one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to cut off 2 of the opposite corners, okay? So I'm going to cut off, when I'm looking at my box, let me show you. So as it folds to the inside, I'm going to cut off the upper right and the lower left. So this is the inside of the box. We're going to cut off the upper right, the lower left. So I'm going to grab my trimmer, and we're just going to take that triangle off again, just like we did before we score anything, before we fold anything, before we do anything else. We're going to cut those corners off and then save them. Okay, save those corners. So opposite, just like this. Okay, cut those corners off. So again, this is the inside of our box. This is what you should have now. And then what you're going to do is we're going to take our scissors and we're going to make some cuts. So we're going to start right here on the lower left, and we're going to cut that score line out. So I am just going to, I'm trying to put it so I can see it in the shadows, but I'm just going to cut all the way up, and I'm going to just take off that score line. It's going to be just a sliver. It's not going to matter, but it is going to help with how this box folds up. Okay. All right. And then if it just hangs, let it hang, because when we fold it, we can cut it off later. So I'm just going on either side of that score. Okay, just taking those little scores out. We're just cutting to the score line, and then I'm pinwheeling it. So as you can see, I just keep cutting on the same lower left corner, okay? So I'm just kind of pinwheeling around. All right, last one. We're gonna do it again. Okay, so once you have that done, then you can fold and burnish and just make sure everything is nice and straight. Okay, and then you can see as we fold, we're going to have those little pieces kind of hanging off, and then that's when you can go with your little scissors here and just snip those flush and cut those off, okay? So again, I'm just going to fold, making sure everything's nice and straight. Burnish. And then we can snip, snip. I just watched an old episode of Tales from the Dark Side. And there was a episode with a hairdresser in it, and she kept saying snip, snip to freak out this dude. Oh my goodness. Those shows come on, I can't remember if it's Saturday or Sunday now, but they come on one of the stations. Tales from the Dark Side. That was an old show. All right, so then you should have a piece that looks like that. So let me grab second box. Where did it go? Here it is. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold the triangles like this. We're going to glue them down at the bottom. That's going to give you the pocket here. And then this is going to be the flap that is right here. We'll add a pocket, and then we'll have our tag that will go in here to close that flap, okay? The pieces that we cut off of the corners up here, that's what's going to be that pocket right there, okay? So I'm trying to use all the pieces that I can, that's for sure. So these are flaps. We don't have to do anything with those. If you want to do an edge punch around before you put your pattern paper on, you can. Just be aware that you're going to have that pocket there. So if you edge punch like this corner, it's going to kind of go into the pocket, but that's okay because, you know, you'll still have plenty of room to put something in, okay? So basically what we're going to do is I'm just going to go around and I'm going to glue this edge down. Like so. Have that pocket. We'll do this pocket here. Okay. Then these flaps will go like this. So you're going to have your flap pages, okay? Like so. And then let's put the pockets on. So when you look at, let's look at this in the proper orientation. So like on the top one here, for example, there's the flap. The pocket's going to go down right here on the lower left. Okay, so this triangle pocket. So we are going to get our trimmer again. I do want to trim off a little teeny tiny bit one more time. So this should line up at 3.5. So I'm going to scooch it over so it's in between 3/8 and 1/2. And I'm going to cut that off. And again, cut this off. It just seems to make everything fit a little bit easier. And it's just a sliver, so no one's going to know. All right, we're going to open this up, and then this will glue right to the edge, like right here. Okay. So again, just a little line of glue. I'm going to line that down at the bottom there, like so. And again, we're going to make sure that we give it some time before we add anything to that pocket. Let's make sure it's nice and dry, but there is that. So that will go on the inside. So we'll turn it around again, and we'll do the same thing with that one. So again, a little edge of glue, which I don't think the last one I got in the frame. And then that goes right here, like so. And you know, the other, I'm trying to like not waste my paper, not waste my triangles. And then I also am trying not to have a whole lot of, you know, I'm trying to save some bulk by doing this, but let's see. Then what we need are the pockets that add to here so that we can put our tags in them. So I already have the pockets and the tags cut here. For the pockets, you will need two that are 2.5 by 4.5 minus a 1/16 of an inch, and then the tags are 3 by 5. You will need two of those. So the tags again, 3 by 5. I did a fancy tag on this one. So I did this fancy shape. You can do that if you want to. You can just do a straight one if you want to. On this one here, I just used my tag punch. There's also a tag punch like this available at Country Craft Creations that does 3 different sizes of punches. And so you can do that as well. So those are the tags. Here are the pockets. So again, because on the 4.5, we scooched it back a 1/16 of an inch. It's not quite 4.5. You can see that in the scoreboard. So you're going to have to score at half, and then you have to turn it half, and then turn it again at half. Okay, so we have 2 of those pockets, and then we're going to miter again, just like the other pockets. Okay, get this out of the way. Fold and burnish. Okay, then we bring back our piece, and we're going to do the same thing we did the first time with the other pockets. On the outer piece, we're going to add the pocket right to the edge, only with the bottom first. What did I do? Hang on. Did I cut those pockets too big? I think I did. I did. Oh my gosh. Those pockets are too big. Oh my gosh. Okay. Hang on. I did them too big. Okay. They're supposed to be 1.5 inches, which means that I cut them at 1/2 inch too big. I apologize for that. So they are only supposed to be 2 inches by 4.5. Okay. So easy fix. Glad I discovered it. Just put it in your scoreboard. The total size of the pocket, you can see I have everything folded in, is only supposed to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to cut that off, making sure I cut the right side off, so that the total pocket width is only 1.5 inches. Okay. So there you go. fixed the boo-boo. So you just need to remiter your edge. Apologize for that. I will put a disclaimer on before we get to this point. So you can see that that's how we fixed that. So that was pretty easy fix, right? All right, do over. There was just too much room in between that flap and that pocket, and that wasn't going to work really well. So, all right, let's try this again. All right, just lining that up at the edge, trying to make sure it's above the score. I'm going to open that up, burnish it down. Okay, more tape. Okay, and then we will go ahead and glue the sides down. All right, so you see that gap? That's what I was looking for, because that'll make it easier to get the tags in and out and give us a little bit more room to accommodate the flap and all that stuff. So we want a little bit of extra gap there, okay? So then this tag, eventually, I'm not going to do it till this dries, but it will go in that pocket and keep that flap shut, okay? All right. Okay. Same thing on this one. Make sure I'm in frame for you. All right. It does take an extra second for the art glitter glue to stick on this paper for some reason. I don't know if, I mean, I'm assuming it is the shiny nature of this paper. It could be because the weather has been kind of icky. We did lose power for a while, but it didn't get to freezing in my house, so that shouldn't have caused a problem with my art glitter glue. But, you know. All right, there's that. Put that down. Then we'll glue this, and then we're going to get to set some magnets. So I'm pretty excited about that part too. Ha! This was a fun idea that I had, the magnet idea, because I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you keep the box together, but then you could also like take it apart, and then you could also take it apart to display it. So you could display it as 3 separate boxes, but then you could also have it as an all together album, easier to take it apart and work on it, you know, that kind of thing. Just a fun idea. All right, so that part's done. All right, let's talk magnets. Flip this bad boy over, and you will need to grab 2 sets of magnets. So I'm going to do that, and I'm using the basic gray large magnets from Country Craft Creations. So you will need 2 sets. Now I'm putting them on the middle box to attach to the bigger box. And the reason I'm doing that is Michelle proofing myself, because when I first did the design, I had to kind of take it apart, because I want to make sure that the magnets are in enough to where when I put the pattern paper on the bottom of my box, that, you know, they're in far enough to where you can't see them, okay? So you can't put them on the larger box because it'll be too close to the edge on the middle box. So that's why I'm gonna start setting them on the middle box, okay? So I'm just going to decide, these are gonna go side to side. That's what I decided to do. So I just wanna make sure it's just, you know, away from the edge, so that when I cover them with pattern paper, it's gonna work out just fine, okay? So I'm putting the positive side down first. I don't know that that matters, but that's what I'm doing. So I'm just gonna do that. And then I'm going to grab the bigger box. All right, so when we set this box will eventually go right here, and you're going to see a 1/4 inch border between the inner box and the outer box. Okay, so we're just going to pop that in there. I'm going to eyeball center it, and you can get rulers if you want to and just do it, but I'm going to just use my eyeballs here and set my magnets, and that is what's going to hold this together. And then once you do that, then you can put the pattern paper on, you know, your boxes, but you have to set your magnets first. So then they'll all be covered with pattern paper, and these magnets are super strong. We're going to use 2 more sets to do the inner box. Okay, so I'm just going to eyeball center that. You can look at where your pages are landing in comparison to the other pages, and there you go. So now magnets are set. We'll just take those off, and then I'm going to grab, I have this 1 inch wide score tape, and I'm just going to put a little square over each one. Okay, so that is the outer box, bottom of my inner box. All right, if you are going to use smaller magnets, I would suggest using maybe a couple side by side or something like that. I think because of the weight of this box, once you get all the pattern papers on and stuff, you will need to have more strength. So I highly recommend you use the large ones. All right, so then when you get your boxes all decorated, which this is going to make it super easy to decorate too, because you don't have your boxes all stuck together and all that, right? Then your piece will just fall in here. Now, you will notice that if I put it the other direction, it's not going to match. This is not centered. So that is another thing that will, you know, be kind of cool, because you'll always be able to, you don't have to measure, you just have to make sure when you put it in the box, when you put it together, that it's centered. Okay, so there will be kind of a right and wrong way. If you want to get super exact and measure, go right ahead. So that way, if you put it in upside down, it matches. That's fine. I'm not going to do that. Because I'm just going to have it go this direction. Okay, so that's that one, and let's go ahead and I'm going to put this here. Let's talk about the small box. Now the small box here has a trifold. Oh, you know what I didn't talk about? Hold on a second. Back up. Back that truck up. Okay. Back that truck up. That's what my husband says. For covering the triangles, you are going to need squares that measure 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And you're going to do the diagonal cut. So you'll take each one, you'll cut it at the diagonal, 3 1/4 by 3 1/4. And then we'll go ahead and use those pieces, and you can reverse them. You know, so you can use one side for one piece and one side for the other piece, and that's going to be what mats your pockets. So you will need a square for here, 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 and then one for here. Okay, so I did, and I will show you. So how I covered mine was I used the pink on the bottom pockets, and then I used this blue pattern on the top pockets, and that's just how I did it. But you need 4 squares, so one for each of those to do that. And then the little mats here, the solid cardstock, I did it 3 by 3, and that worked out pretty perfect. And then the inside ones, I did it 2 7/8 by 2 7/8 on this one, but then on this one, I think I did 2 3/4 by 2 3/4 because I was using pieces up. So it has a little bit different size around there, but that is what I did. So that fits into the pocket pretty perfectly for that. Okay, and then that just folds up. So that's what I wanted to tell you about covering the pattern paper the pockets with the pattern paper. I'm getting tongue-tied. I'm sorry. Well, we talked about the pockets. Now we can go to the next layer now, which is the innermost box. And for this, you will just need a 9 by 11 piece of cardstock, and you're going to score at 3 inches on all 4 sides. So 3, 3, 3, and 3. We'll just go right through my post. Okay, so if you want to go ahead and just do it on the 2 sides, you can score at 3 and 8, and then turn it and score at 3 and 6. So it doesn't really matter, but that's what you're going to need. So this is a 9 by 11 piece of paper. I used the 12 by 14, so the strips that I had are the strips that I used for other elements in this box. So I didn't waste my paper. Definitely did not waste my paper. Then what we're going to do is we are going to do some cuts real quick. So these sides here are going to fold in and make our trifold, okay, on the sides. And then these we're going to add pockets to. So we're going to have to cut out the scores on the top and the bottom. So again, I'm just going to go up the score line and cut those scores out. I'm going to do it straight up that middle side here. Okay, we're not pinwheeling, we're doing both of them, because that's what's going to create our trifold. And turn it completely over, do it again. So that gets rid of the score. It also helps everything fold a little nicer. And this paper is so nice and sturdy, and it's so pretty. All right. So I got all those little hangy-onies, so we're going to fold and burnish, and then we'll cut those off, making sure everything's nice and straight. Okay, so I'm gonna grab my little scissors and just snip, snip. All right. You guys know me and my Halloween. I love my Halloween. And I'm a fan of monster movies. I love monster movies, especially the old ones, the original. Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney and all them guys. Love them. Love them. My faves. All right. All right. So those are gone. Now we need our trimmer, because we're going to trim our little flaps for our pages, for our little trifold pages. So I did trim them off 1/4 of an inch. So I'm going to fold everything in. Here's my little square flaps at the tops. I'm just going to line my score up to 2 3/4. And I'm going to trim that off. And then I'm going to flip it over and do it again. Okay, so each side will have 1/4 of an inch trimmed off. So when you do that, you're going to notice, okay, so it's a little bit shorter on that side. So when you fold it over, it'll fold over really nice and it'll fit inside each other really well. Okay, we're going to repeat on the other side, 1/4 of an inch. And then we'll flip it over, do it again. Make sure we don't cut through that page. Okay, got those little pieces off. The next thing we're going to need to do is put on our seam binding. So I used seam binding. I have 2 lengths of seam binding that are 16 inches, and what we're going to do is, this is going to be, you know, the outside of the box. We're going to put the seam binding on the outside right here, and then it'll wrap around to close that. So I'm going to center that. They should be 3 inches tall, so center it about 1.5 inches up from the bottom. I can't get my eyeballs to work. There we go. And I'm going to put some score tape right there, and my seam binding. Find the middle of that right here, and lay that down right in the middle, like swoops, like so. That will be covered with pattern paper. Okay, so we're good. So then that will wrap around the front and tie this together. Okay, and that's all we're doing with that trifold. That's it. And that'll keep everything nice. And so you could do photo mats in there, whatever you want. Okay, so we'll do that again. So we're going to go up about 1.5 inches and do our seam binding again, like so. And then we've got our, find our middle here. And this color, by the way, I know you guys are probably wondering what collection I'm using, and you're thinking, but it goes with both. So I'm not helping. I'm not giving any hints because it goes with both. It sure does. Okay, so I'm gonna lay that down like so. Okay, so we got our seam binding. That'll wrap around to the front, and you can fold it left over right, right over left. Doesn't matter either way. Eventually I will tie bows and get them exactly where I want them, and then tie knots in the end so they don't fray, and then voila, you have that piece. So then we need to add some pockets to this one. So the pockets here, you will need 2 pieces that are 1 5/8 by 6 minus a 1/16. And again, that's to fit within kind of the folds of the box. And then we're going to get that off of there real quick. And again, I did that because it's kind of like I had scraps, and so that's what it kind of worked out as. Why do I need this? I don't need this. Okay. I need this. Okay, so again, the measurement for this, you can make it a little bit bigger if you want as far as pocket width. I was going with what scraps I had left over, so that's how it ended up being that size. So if you want to make it a little bit of taller pocket, you can go right ahead. But again, this is just shy of 6 inches, so you're going to have to score these on 3 sides and turn them each time and score at 1/2. Okay, these are going to be skinny little pockets, skinny little pockets, but that's okay because it worked out really good. So then miter and fold and burnish and all the things that we do all the time. Okay. Oops, didn't get that quite through the corner there. Okay. And then the photo mats that I did for these, I'm calling it the second color. So like if you're doing a, if you're using scraps of the Pearl Sheen Natural for your photo mat, and you want to put, you know, a cardstock behind that photo mat for these pockets, those were cut at 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. So yeah, that just kind of depends on what you want to do. You could totally make a little booklet and put in here. There's definitely enough room in this pocket to do that. All right, so we have that. I'm gonna put that there. This will go, and I'll show you. It's going to go towards the inside of the box so that when you hold it up, you know, fold it up underneath the box lid, they won't fall out. Okay, so that's why they're there. So we're going to do the whole glue thing one more time. in the tape in case you don't want to put your pattern paper all the way down into your pocket. Then your tags won't get caught up, which is a great little tip and trick. Okay. And tape. Just right over that edge. That just makes it slidey. Okay, a little bit of glue here. A little bit of glue here. Okay. Giving it a little extra time because this definitely does take a little more time to set. So, probably because of the shiny nature, but the shiny is so pretty, right? Okay. Okay, I'm putting it right to the score, not into the score. Okay, little tape. And we're almost there. So then we're going to set magnets next. So we will need 2 more sets of magnets. And these will be done differently. So don't get ahead yet. Okay. Okay, so we have those like so. All right, magnets. So when we set the magnets for this one, again, we're going to want to put it right in the middle. All right, so we have our box here. We've got the inner box here. The magnets are already set. The magnets are right here. I don't want to put the magnets for the next layer over top of these because it can make it wonky. So what I'm going to do is put them here and here. But again, I'm going to put them on the smaller one first to make sure that I can cover them up with pattern paper on the back of this. And then those will fit right in the middle right there. Okay, so we're going to turn this over and we're going to put magnets here and here. So again, I need 2 sets of these. Okay, and I'm going to put them so that they're far enough away from the edge to where my pattern paper will cover them, right? Just in the middle somewhere. Up and down, not on the sides. Sides are where the other ones are. And that's, they won't compete against each other if you do it that way, which is nice. All right, so we got our magnets. Our pattern paper will go right over the edge of that, okay? Take that tape off. Grab our box. Okay, so this is nice and centered. I've got my magnets where I want them. I've got this placed where I want it. It's not wonky or anything, so just make sure that it's not wonky when you put it in there. All right, so again, we're going to center this, and you can eyeball center or you can do it with a ruler, whatever works best for you. And I'm just gonna lay that down. And ta-da! Second set is in there. So again, once you get all your pattern papers in there, It's going to cover all those magnets up, and it's going to be amazing. And they won't compete against each other. So that's not the right tape I want. There it is. Hit everything for myself. Okay. So then what we're going to do next is I'm going to show you how to do this with 12 by 12 paper for the first 2 boxes. And we're going to talk about lids because we have to do the lids. The lids are all done the same way. So I'll show you one, and then we'll talk about the sizes for the lids. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to decorate and do my pattern paper, and I will come back and show you what it looks like. So again, so we'll put it in there, and that is off. You can see, I don't know if you can see, it's really, really off. So we got to make sure it's in the right orientation. If you're going to have an orientation, make sure it's in the right orientation. Now you can see it's nice and centered and everything. Perfect. It's perfect. Okay. So, let's talk lids real quick, and then we'll do the other things. Okay. So lids for this, you will need to make 3. The outer lid, cut your paper at 6.5 by 8.5. The middle lid, cut at 6 by 8, and the inner lid, cut at 5.5 by 7.5. Okay, they're all scored and put together exactly the same way. So you're going to take each one of these and put them in your scoreboard. They're all done the same, and I'm going to score at 1 1/8 on all 4 sides. Okay, 1 1/8, 1 1/8, 1 1/8, and 1 1/8. You're probably wondering why 1 1/8, because the explosion board does 1 1/8 inch sides for the lids, and so I just kind of kept that measurement. Then all you need to do when you cut your pattern paper is do 1-inch strips. Okay, so that's why I did that. So all of them are scored on all 4 sides at 1 1/8 all the way around. So then when I make my lids, I do them pinwheel style. All right, so for the lids, this is really pretty easy. We're just going to make tabs out of all 4 of these squares in the corners. So I'm going to cut straight up, and then I'm going to make a tab. Okay, I'm going to make sure, cut that score out. There we go. And then I'm going to turn it. I'm going to pinwheel this. And then that way there's a tab on each side. I like to do that. I think that it gives a little bit of extra strength to each lid, each lid side anyway. And I just, you know, you can do, if you want to just do, you know, the 2 short sides or 2 long sides, whatever. But each of these 4 need to be a tab. Okay. So we cut straight up, and then I'm just cutting that angle so that I have my tab. Okay. And that's all I'm going to do with that. And then I'm going to fold and burnish. And when you put your pattern papers on, it's easier to put them on as much as you can while they're flat. So, I'll show you what to cover, and then I'll just actually put this together and show you how it looks. Okay, so outside of your lid, what you're going to want to do is, let me see here. Okay. So on your outside lid, you can put pattern paper here, 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 here. On the inside, you can put pattern paper here. Then what you're going to want to do is make your corners and glue those together, okay? And then you will go back in and then fill in the sides of these lids, okay? So again, on the outside, you can put pattern paper on all of the 5 pieces. On the inside of the lid, you can put pattern paper on the inside lid only. And then you make your box, because there's going to be a tab on each side. That's why you can't put the pattern paper on the inside tabs, okay? That is one disadvantage to do the, one disadvantage, that is one disadvantage to doing it the way I do it with the pinwheels, is that you have to cover all 4 sides after the actual lid is put together. But I do think that it gives a little bit of strength to each side. I don't know. It's probably just me and what I like to do. But anyways, once you get the box put together, then you can, you know, get it all glued together. Then you can go back and put pattern paper on the inside lid pieces, okay? And they're just 1-inch strips. And then, like, for example, this side here is 5 1/4, so it would be 1 inch by 5 1/8, okay? So that's how I do the lids. So to decorate the outside lid, I used a lot of the Glamour cardstock because I really wanted it sparkly. So I chose the 2 colors that I thought best fit this paper collection. And I cut the first piece of Glamour, this blue here, at 6 1/8 by 4 1/8. And then what I ended up doing with that 6 1/8 by 4 1/8 piece is I cut a 3/4 inch frame. So I cut this whole middle section out so that I could save this piece. And that's what I kind of used for things like the little hearts, the little blue pieces. Let me show you the other lids, the little blue that I did. With the little dots here, the hearts, all those things that I did, I used from that section under here, because you're not going to see it anyway when it's covered with the, you know, pattern paper and everything. So that's what I ended up doing. So again, it's 6 1/8 by 4 1/8, and then I just cut a 3/4 inch frame out and took this middle section just completely out. Okay, so that was that first blue layer. The second layer, the red, that was 5 3/4 by 3 3/4. And again, I did another frame, because once you put this pattern paper on, you're not going to see that. But then I did bump it up with foam tape. So I did foam tape all across the whole entire thing, so it's still filled in really nice, and it has some stability, and it's you know, really stable under the pattern paper. So it's completely covered with the foam tape underneath. But then again, I was able to use the red from here and use that for punches and, you know, all those things. So that's how I did that. Then the pattern paper here I did at, I want to say 5 1/2 by 3 1/2. And that would be correct, 5 1/2 by 3 1/2. And then I just strategically cut little Mr. Cupid out, and that's what I used for the pattern paper, and then just added some flowers and things. Now these flowers I made out of the pattern paper that was left over. I just punched 4 of the same shape, squished them with my hands, glued them together, and then I don't know if you can see, but I put a little red punch of the Glamour cardstock in the center of them. And then this flower here was left over from a previous design team package, and then I just added a little bit more seam binding here as a bow. And that's all I did to decorate that. Okay, so that is how you make all of the lids. And the other lids I did a little more simply. I just did cardstock with the pattern paper that I chose, and then accented a little bit with the Glamour. This one here, I did use a piece of the Glamour and then pattern paper over top of it, and then I used little dots of the blue there. So you can kind of mix and match and do whatever you want. You'll notice on one of the boxes that I did, was it the inner box? Where did I put that? Oh, yes. The inner box here, I used strips of the Glamour cardstock just to cover the pockets, because I thought it was really pretty to do. So, you know, you can do that. So I ended up only going through 1 sheet each of the Glamour, the blue and the red. So, you know, it didn't take a lot, but it sure adds a punch to this project. Okay, so there's that. Now let's talk about how to do this if you do not have 12 by 14 paper. So If you do not have 12 by 14 paper, you can use 12 by 12 paper. You just have to piece it together. All right, so this is the last thing we need to talk about. And then I will decorate and come back. So the outer box will require 2 pieces of paper, and then the middle box will require 2 pieces. And then the rest of it you can get out of just plain old 12 by 12, but we do need to piece the first 2 boxes. So out of your 12 by 12 cardstock, if you don't have the 12 by 14, you will need 1 piece that's 10 by 12 and 1 piece that's 4.5 by 12. Okay. So when you have your pieces, then you're going to put them in your scoreboard. Score at 4 on the 10-inch side, and that's it. Then you're going to turn it. You're going to put the 12 at the top. You're going to score at 4 and at 8. Okay, so you should have 3 squares and 3 rectangles. Okay, then this piece, we're going to put the 4.5 at the top. You're going to score down at 1/2 inch. Then you're going to turn it, and you're just going to score at 4 and 8. Okay, that's it. So then we'll put those 2 pieces together. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to make tabs out of this 4 by 12 or 4.5 by 12 piece. So I'm going to fold it just because then I can make a tab easier by doing that and cutting that out. Okay. And then miter this. This is how we're going to attach everything together. All right. So once we do that, fold and burnish all of your little tabs. Okay. And then you can fold and burnish this as well. And we're just going to attach them together and make a long piece, and that's all we're doing. And then that's going to create the bigger 12 by 14 piece that you're going to need for your outer box. Okay, so you have your squares here, our rectangles here. These are going to attach just right to the edges here. Okay, that's all we're going to do. So I'm going to, you can do them one at a time if you want. I think that's what I'll do just because I think I'll be able to line it up a little bit easier. So I'm going to turn it so I can see it. I'm just going to line that up to the edge, like so. Okay, then I can put glue here. Lay that down, make sure everything's nice and lined up. And then I'll just fold this back a little bit, put a little glue here. All right. Like so. Okay. Then open that up. Okay, and now you have your 10 by 14 piece. Okay, so then you'll just go back and just like we did with the other one, cut your corners and do all the things. Okay, so that's how you make the outer box out of 12 by 12 paper. And then the inner box, because it needs to be bigger, if you have 12 by 12 cardstock, you'll need a piece that's 9 by 10.5 and then 4 by 10.5. So again, we'll grab our scoreboard. The 4 by 10.5, 4 at the top, score at 1/2 inch. Turn it, 10.5 at the top. We're going to score at 3.5 and at 7. With your 9 by 10.5, with the 9 at the top, score at 3.5. Turn with the 10.5 at the top, score at 3.5 and at 7. All right. So there's that. And we're going to do the same exact thing that we just did. Okay. So I'm going to fold my piece here and create my tabs. and then glue it together, and that's it. And then that makes the bigger piece for your inner box. So if you don't have the 12 by 14, this is how you can do it. Now, this will give a little bit of extra bulk at the join there, but it's not going to be anything that's going to cause, I think, a huge problem. Definitely easier to do this with the 12 by 14 because it's less steps for sure. So whatever your preference is, but the 12 by 14 isn't available in all the colors either. So, you know, if you want a different color, then this is going to be your option. Okay, everything else can be cut out of 12 by 12 the exact same way. Okay, so making sure that's the inside of my box. And we're going to go ahead and glue these down again. Line up that corner, the edges. Okay. I just think because they're 3 pieces and it's already kind of folded, I think that'll be easier to do, which I didn't I didn't miter and burnish the other stuff. Oh well, we will do that together, so it'll be fine. Everything's gonna be great. Everything's gonna be great. All right. Okay. There we go. All right. So then we can fold and burnish just like it was a whole piece, right? There we go. All right, so that's how you do it. All right, I think that completes the thing. So I'm going to decorate and come back with a surprise for you. Drum roll, we'll figure out what we're going to be doing and with the papers, and I'll be back. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.